Good morning. This is Sherry here. Thank you again for joining me live for this second video in our series on grief. Whether you're watching me live, I welcome you. If you're watching in a subsequent viewing, I still welcome you. So one of the areas that I specialize in as a life coach is in the whole area of grief. And my goal is to start a wave of healing, particularly regarding to this topic, throughout the world. So I ask you to start the wave of healing in your own world as I'm trying to start it in mine. So I'm going today to give you a few tips on how to heal from the grief, from this difficult journey. And I'm going to start by saying, obviously, if you are watching this video, you have lost someone close and someone special and someone dear to you. And so I send my love and my care and my sympathy to you across the miles or whatever the waves are of technology. And I asked you to please receive my condolences. I do know the journey that you are walking. As we lost our younger daughter, Kerry, when she was 9 years old. So I hope that this video is going to be able to help you in some way, and just want to remind you that grieving is a very personal process. So all of the tips I give you won't apply to you, but I ask you please to use those that in fact do apply to you, and discard the rest. So let's just dive right in if you're happy with that. I also ask you, whether you're watching live or in subsequent viewings, if you have questions you would like to ask, please feel free to pop them in the comment box. Not that I can promise answers to all the questions, but I certainly will do my very best to help you. So the first tip I want to give you is that the only way to move through the process of grieving, as Peter Lynch so beautifully says, the only way through it is through it. There are no shortcuts. It doesn't help to avoid it, to put it on hold, to pretend it's not a big issue if it is. So one needs to be very real in the process of going through the process. For example, if it was somebody who wasn't very close to you, it's not likely to be a very long or painful process. But if it's someone very close to you, it's likely to be more painful, it's likely to take longer, because you've got more emotions to process as you work through your grief. And so many people are frightened to work through their grief. I just want to say, you can do it. You can do this process. Many people have, and so can you. Even though I'm sure on some days it feels too overwhelming and as if you can't. So I want to repeat that. You can do this journey. And the result at the end of it is that you will have been weathered by the process. You will have a far greater understanding of yourself and of others, and usually we're much better people too. We've had our rough edges knocked off ourselves. So that's the first tip, is the only way through it is through it. The second tip is that we can't speed up the process. For each of us, it'll take as long as it takes. And you might have experienced the same loss. For example, you might be siblings and you've lost your parents. Some of you might heal far sooner than others of you. And it's like how long is a piece of string. The process will take as long as it takes. And I would like to challenge you to be as thorough as you can, so that you really heal completely from the process. You're not just putting a plaster over the top. Does that make sense? The third tip is, having said that the process will take as long as it takes, time alone will not heal. Okay, it's a myth. People say, oh, you know, just give it a time and you'll be fine. So time alone doesn't heal. It's what you do with the time that is so important. So are you actively trying to work through your grief? Are you maybe reading books about it? Are you talking to other people? Are you thinking about it? Are you working things through in your mind? If you are doing those things actively, then yes, time does heal. Never completely. We'll always have the scar as testament to the person that we loved so deeply. So we will live, though, we can live very happily with the scar, and we'll never be the same as we were beforehand. That's if we allow our grief to do its work through us and in us. Another tip is to write or talk or journal about your loss, whether you find one or two very trusted friends, whether you journal privately, there are lots of online journals, whether you join a Facebook group that has your particular kind of loss at its heart. What it's helping to do is just to get the grief literally off your chest. So our daughter, Kathleen, is multi-talented, and one of the things is she reads a lot, and she wrote some poems after the loss of our daughter, Kerry, which actually were published in an American Poetry Digest. Those kind of things are really important in a way of helping us to learn really what we are feeling, and then to realize that it's okay. It's actually okay to be feeling that. So just one word of caution, if you are finding people to talk to, which I think is really important, just be aware of a thing called flooding, which Brené Brown, who's done lots of work on vulnerability and is really well worth any of the books of hers that you would like to read. Brené Brown talks about a process called flooding where, and I'm sure you might have experienced this, somebody you might not know very well suddenly lays their whole heart and sob story and life story in front of you. And it's overwhelming for you because you don't know them very well. You don't know what to do with that information. You're probably unqualified even to comment. And the process of flooding is we feel such relief that we're able to speak about something that we don't know when to stop, and we overshare, which is bad for you and bad for the person who is listening or receiving the information. I myself was guilty of flooding, and it didn't help me at all. At the end, I felt empty because there was not a proper response coming back to me, and I also felt, I could see that, looking back, I could see that the person I was talking to actually was very discomforted by what I had to say. So choose the people that you speak to and make sure that they have earned the right to hear your story. So if they've earned the right to hear your story, you're unlikely to flood them. So if you like what I'm saying in this video, please share it, like my page, subscribe to my YouTube channel, where we can get lots more information going. So moving along, you can create a certain ritual that is special only to you. No one else has to know about it. Otherwise, they would probably think we've lost our marbles. But create a ritual or rituals that help you to heal. Whether it is that you feel you keep the communication channels open with the person who has died, whether there's a certain song you listen to, a certain prayer you might need to say, whatever it may be. Those rituals probably won't last forever, but they certainly do help in the healing process. So if you have any questions to ask, please feel free to pop them into the comment box, and I will do my best to answer them in video in some of the next sessions that we have, or I'll answer them via email and personally. The next question is to cry or not to cry. You know, some people cry very easily, others don't. Some people who can't cry feel they're not mourning properly because they're not able to cry. Remember, it's a personal journey. So you will do what you need to do and what you feel comfortable in doing. But an interesting fact is that neurochemically, they've proven that the concentration or the buildup of tears, the consistency of it, when they've tested it, actually, it's been proven that it's a way of our body releasing some of the toxins. And these toxins build up because of the stress of the grieving process. So when we cry, not only does it release toxins physiologically, but we usually feel much more at ease and at peace when we have had a good cry. But if you can't, that's just the way it is. Don't beat yourself up about it. The time will come when the tears arrive. I never knew there were so many tears, that there could be so many tears in one body as mine. So remember, crying is a good thing. Don't be frightened of it. Know that it's a path towards your healing and to help you just to feel a little bit more at ease. A very important tip for me was to take just one day at a time. When I thought of the endless years stretching ahead without Kerry in our lives, it was too daunting to contemplate. It was like, this is impossible. I know that I won't be able to do this. So I used to pray every morning for the grace, the peace, and the strength just for today. Okay? Just for today. So I'm not even looking at the end of the week. I'm not even looking at the weekend. I'm wanting the grace, the peace, and the strength just for today, and I could handle that. So if we look at living just for today, then eventually it's for the week. Eventually we can look far enough to see a month ahead. And like now, we can see years ahead. So it comes back to us, but initially we can't look ahead. It's too daunting and paralyzing and overwhelming and so painful. So one day at a time is the next tip. The next tip is going to be linked to what I'm going to talk about next week, which is dysfunctional grief. But try not to do anything in excess. Keep a watch on yourself and your loved ones, particularly children if they're grieving, and make sure they're doing nothing in excess. Even if it's a good thing like exercise, if it's done in excess, it can indicate that we're not dealing really well with the process of grieving. So eating too much or too little, exercising too much or too little, shopping too much or too little, working too much or too little. The list is endless. But a point of reference is, let's have a look and see how much have I changed in how I used to be. And if I'm suddenly doing something frenetically, it could be an indication that I'm not coping with the grieving process and maybe I need to. Okay, I'm hoping that you will share this video with other people, particularly if you know someone that you feel might benefit from this video. And as I say, you'll contribute to the wave of healing that I'm wanting to start in our world and in your world. So moving along further, one of the things that's also very important is to engage in or return to the things that you love as soon as you can. Those things that you love will firstly make you feel normal again. Whew, I haven't lost my marbles. But they will distract you and help you to focus on something that has always been very meaningful for you. And so the activity that you love is one of many. It can be exercise, it can be reading, it can be listening to music, whatever it is that makes you feel good. So I want to show you what my mum did as her healing in the loss of her granddaughter. And she's an embroiderer. So this is what she did. I don't know if you can see it. It's an embroidery sampler with all the things that our daughter Kerry loved. My mum's embroidery group helped her to design it, and it was a very cathartic process for my mum. So find out what you do, what you love to do, and try and get back to that as soon as possible. The next thing was really a big one for me, and that is to soothe your jangling soul. Your soul, after the loss of someone really close to you, your whole body is in shock. Your soul feels like it's jangling all the time. And so lots of things will jangle your soul. You will just feel that you're overwhelmed, or you will feel, I can't really engage with that person or that activity. It's all a bit much. And so to soothe your soul, it'll be, once again, very personal what you choose to do. I chose to listen to very, very beautiful music. I couldn't listen to the commercial music on the radio. It jangled my soul too much. So I started then listening to very beautiful music, and that's remained with me until today. But there are other ways of soothing your soul. You can have candlelit baths. You can go for a peaceful walk. You can garden. You can read. You can go out for a cup of coffee with or without a friend. There are lots of things that will just allow your levels of anxiety just to, and that's what we're needing, because the process of grieving is very exhausting work that we do. And the last one I want to speak about today is that we can use the person who has died as our personal motivator. Whether it is in the work that we do, whether it is in how we are starting to heal, we can use them as a beacon of, you're going to motivate me and I'm going to get on top of this challenge. So for me, actually, my office that I'm currently sitting in was Kerry's bedroom. And I know that she motivates me every day to do things that maybe push me out of my comfort zone. She keeps me on the straight and narrow. And it's a wonderful way of feeling bonded to the person that you've lost, as well as it gets you moving. And that's what we're after. We're wanting to move forward, even if it's only a tiny step every day. The area I haven't spoken about is faith and the role that it plays in healing. And I'm going to do a completely separate video on that. So obviously faith comes in as one of the major steps towards healing as well, but it's too big a topic for me to talk about today. So I want to remind you to like this page, share it, join my YouTube channel, join my Facebook page, and let us start this process of healing. Let us work towards shattering the silence on this topic that so many people find so difficult to speak about. And the result of that is that you, as the person who is mourning, feel very isolated and very lonely. So let's create a community and let's start healing and caring. So I'm going to end today with a short little quote by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. I do not believe that sheer suffering teaches. If suffering alone taught, all the world would be wise, since everyone suffers. To suffering must be added mourning, understanding, patience, love, openness, and the willingness to remain vulnerable. So on that note, I thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to you joining me tomorrow. next week, Thursday next week at 8 o'clock South African time. And I remind you to pop a question into the comment box if you feel that you have one that's burning. And I look forward to spending time with you again next Thursday. Bye.